Hello. Thank you so much for booking your biodynamic breathwork and trauma release sessions with me. Really excited to be working with you on your healing journey. Just wanted to give you a little bit of information before we begin the session, which is going to help us save a little bit of time. As I won't need to explain how the system works. So biodynamic breathwork and trauma release is the only system that I'm aware of where you stay in the body. So typically with breathwork sessions, you charge the body to override the mind, so you can then get into an altered state of consciousness. How this modality of breathwork works so well, you're not going into an altered state of consciousness, you are actually staying in the body. So what happens with biodynamic breath work, when you perform a deep connective breath, it charges the nervous system, it puts the body temporarily into a state of flight or fight, it helps to charge the fascia, and then what happens is when you combine all the components of biodynamic breath work, you then get a really amazing release through the system. So what the biodynamic breath work is doing is it's allowing the body to complete the flight or fight response that it was unable to complete at the time of the traumatic event. So there's 6 main components to the breath work that we're doing. So the first component is the breath. So we're performing deep connective breath. So it's a circular breath. You're inhaling in fully and you're exhaling fully. So with the breath, it's super important to... it's a little dog. Hello. It's super important to make your breath almost be like a circle. So notice there's no gap in my inhale and there's no gap in my exhale. It's a continuous breath. So the reason we do that is so that we don't allow the carbon dioxide levels to drop too far into the body, don't allow the carbon dioxide levels to drop too far so that you end up getting techne, which is the kind of lobster hands. We want to avoid that. So by doing this deep connective breath, what we're doing is we're charging the system. You start to notice a tingling sensation throughout the body. So we go through 2 breaths. So we go through the charge breath and then we go through the normal nose breath. And what that's doing is it is putting the body into the flight or fight state, and then it's coming back to the sympathetic, which is the rest and repair. So that's the breath, and then we have the second component, which is sound. Now sometimes we use sound, sometimes we encourage you to make sounds, because what we find as we breathe and as we release, sometimes the emotion can come out in sound, particularly if you're the kind of person that has felt that they had to suppress their truth their whole life, or if you've got quite a lot of blockages in the throat, then sound is a very important component, and it is encouraged throughout the session. So the next component is touch. Now in the biodynamic breathwork, touch is super important because it is a vital part of what makes this breath work so powerful. So we use touch, and what that does is it helps to release stuck trauma within the tissues. So also what we're doing is we work on something called the felt sense. So for example, what we do before we begin the session is we scan the body and we see what is present for us at this moment in time. So for some people, they might say, oh, I have anxiety here in my chest, and it's really breaking down how your body is experiencing that anxiety, because anxiety is a label for a series of feelings. But when we really tune into our felt sense, so for example, I feel this constricting, tight sensation in my chest, it feels quite hot, it's making my lungs feel compressed, that's really going into the felt sense. And as we go through the breathwork session, we're really tracking that felt sense. So it might move, it might go somewhere else. So touch is super important. We also use fascial release work. So you know, we form belts of tension as we develop trauma throughout our lives, and these will form at certain points in the body. They are actually the human chakra system. So we start at the eyes, which is the ocular belt, then we do the oral belt, then we do the cervical, then we do the diaphragmatic, and then we do the belly and the pelvis. So as we work through each breathwork session, we'll be doing release work in these particular areas to help you help your body de-armor and become more free. Emotion is the other component. So the emotion is what's trapped in our fascia. So when we're breathing, we are technically moving the energy throughout the body. And it's actually trauma is actually the residue of an event that's left behind in your tissues after an accident that you was unable to process at the time. And you know, the tension in the muscles is trauma. So what happens when we breathe, when we do manual release work, and when we move, it's almost like butter. If you imagine butter melting into the tissues, that's what happens with the emotions. So we really tune into that, that tightness in my chest. We really tune into that, and we ask ourselves what's behind that, and we just send the breath there, and we really focus, and then we're able to clear and release. And then the final part is, the second to last part is movement. So with the movement, again, it's super important to get the body moving, because as this energy is released into the system, the fascia naturally wants to unwind, and your body wants to unwind, and it's almost like a corkscrew effect. So yeah, it's like a wave that goes through the body, and the more you move, the easier it is for the emotion and the energy to be released out of the system. And then the final component is the meditation, finding the stillness within, allowing our body to pendulate between a charge and a rest and repair. Because what we're doing in this breath work is we are activating the sympathetic nervous system, but we're also doing it in a way that it's safe for our body. So we can release, we can experience intense emotion, but we feel safe because someone's holding space for you, and you're holding space for yourself, and you feel supported, and you know nothing bad is going to happen. So you're fully able to express in that moment what you was unable to experience in that traumatic time. So I've said to everybody, it's super important and highly recommended to have a minimum of 5 sessions, so we can go through each of the belts of tension. And personally, I really feel that's the only way. That's what the institute who I train with have recommended, because that's how you get the full transformational effect. Because what happens is, as you start to work through the belts, you work through the eyes, and then you go to the jaw, but then some of the energy might travel back up, and then as you go down, it moves up and it moves up, and so you just keep clearing and keep clearing. And when you start on this breathwork journey, it does start to bring things up, which will need to be cleared in the following session. But absolutely love this breathwork. I mean, everybody I've worked with has experienced such an amazing transformation in their life. I too myself have experienced profound changes, and I'm really excited to be able to share with you this journey, because it really is wonderful, and it makes us more present in our body. It improves our emotional resilience. It helps us to change, you know, the conditioning that we've received as a child through our adult life, and it really helps us to make dramatic changes. And that's really needed in this time, because yeah, we're living in a world where there's so much uncertainty and there's so much fear. And I think if we all face our fear and, you know, face our shadows and really work through what's holding us back, that's how we make major changes on the planet. And that's what I'm all about helping people do. So thank you very much for watching. Really excited to guide you through your sessions. It's going to be really lovely experience for both of us, I hope. So catch up with you soon, and thank you.